dive into. And he was talking about the salary cap number, isn't just for the offseason and how they manage their cap room throughout.
There's escalators, there's incentives, performance-based incentives, there's roster bonuses that you have to budget for and you have to account for, so we can be compliant. But, there's also, they might not hit their incentives. They may not get all their per game roster bonuses, or there's just different things throughout the way. There's budgeted items that people just don't necessarily see. How many practice squad guys are we going to elevate? Last year we budgeted for 2 every game because the previous season we used them all every week. So we had gone a little bit over that year. So it's like, okay, we got to be more up to speed on what we can do for the coaches and giving them the flexibility if they decide to have 2 practice squad guys up. So there's a lot of stuff that you have to just constantly be providing yourself answers throughout the season, and those are set up in the offseason when you do the deals.
There's so many little things that he points out there that we just look at bottom line. This guy makes this much. This guy makes this much. Here's the salary cap. That's how much room's left. And even our guy from Spotrac, who we've had on a number of times, Michael Giannitti, talks about his own website saying, listen, man, I don't know every detail that's going on behind it. He's putting it together saying, yeah, I'm giving you, ballpark. I'm giving you the best estimation based on the information they have, but he doesn't have all the escalators and all the incentives and all these things.
Sure. Yeah, and I hadn't thought about that. I was listening to the replay on the way home about the practice squad players. We never even think about that, right?
Yeah.
We think, oh, okay, they brought this guy up for this game and this guy up, but you don't think about how that affects the cap. And, I thought that was kind of eye-opening. There are so many things that fall into place. And that's where, again, I think that probably, if you really got down to the nitty-gritty and started looking at how different teams manage their cap, it leads to success or failures as far as on the field. I mean, those kinds of little things that they do so well, I think, give them an advantage. But I think that was an interesting little nugget for him to throw out there, because we don't even come close. And that's the thing about Michael Giannitti that you were talking about. Why everybody respects him and goes to Spotrac is because he does say, hey, look, this is my best guess.
Yeah, my best approximation.
Right.
Here it is.
Yeah. So, but yeah, I thought that was another really interesting part about that, and just seeing, who he is as a person, and, how much the players and the agents respect him. And yeah, it's cool to hear those sort of inside dealings that are going on behind the scenes.
Well, and here he breaks down why they are traditionally pretty patient when it comes to free agency and how that impacts their salary cap.
What happens where you get into trouble with free agency is when you see certain deficiencies in your team and you just go out and you're like, okay, we got to fix this and we have to fix that. You can end up putting yourself in a bad spot from a salary cap standpoint, because you're trying to balance your team and you can like overpay to a certain extent at that time, instead of being patient and just waiting to see who may pop out from another team as a cap casualty guy, or maybe somebody's available in a trade because another team signed somebody else. Just having that flexibility coming around in the corner when the June 1st guys come around, or the middle of July when, you're like, okay, where are we? Can we still, are there still guys out there in free agency that we want to add, and or are there guys that we can extend on our team?
Yeah, I thought it was a lot of really good information without giving away specifics.
Right.
So, and that's something that Andrew Brandt had talked about, because John was referring to, you spend all this money in free agency, and then all of a sudden you go, man, our cap situation is screwed. Mm-hmm. Andrew Brandt, was saying, look, you don't ever get to that point. Like, you plan ahead. You're always having these conversations about what about when this guy's contract comes up. There's just so many moving parts.
Yeah.
And then, and I'm sure, I don't know how much it is like the tax code, but I'm sure that every year there's some little thing that you can add in there that, that they have, okay, this happened, so we're going to make this rule, and you got to be aware of all that stuff. I mean, you got to have some really bright people that aren't just football guys, that are really, good with finances.
One of the stories I read in the snapshot was that Mike McCarthy will not be at the Combine. He and his new defensive coordinator, Mike Zimmer, are going to stay back and get the coaching staff together, the whole thing. And that's what John talked to us about yesterday, that, the coaching staff will not be going to the Combine. Here's what he had to say about that.
It's exciting. It's different. different ideas and different philosophies all mixed together. So everybody's coming together. They're getting to a point where it's going to be all ball now. So they're just focused on implementing their systems. So they're not going to be going down to the combine next week. They're all going to be here just 24/7 installing everything they need to get installed, because it's basically a race till April 8th when the players come in. And Mike had coached in the AFC Championship game, so there's a little bit of a feeling that behind the eight ball a little bit, so getting caught up, but still staying true to his hiring process and the group that's come in. So just mixing all those people together. But yeah, it's exciting. But yes, we do need name tags.
Yeah, let me ask you this, Bob. How much did you think, oh, that's a problem? Were you like, oh man, that's something I hadn't thought about, and it's really important to have those coaches there?
Yeah, I think I just generally assumed head coach wants to go see the talent that's available. He knows they've got the 16th pick, and they would game plan, that they'd be there going, okay, I love this guy, but he's probably not going to be there at 16. What, planning out moves. Do we trade up for this guy? Do we trade down and we can still get this guy? I mean, I figured that's where a lot of that planning maybe happens as they're watching different players out there that they've keyed in on.
Yeah, and and I was kind of looking at like the Seahawks schedule next year, and you look at like the Patriots, maybe the Jets, all the teams that they're playing, Atlanta next year, that are in the same situation. Mm-hmm. And this is something that's new for us. So for 14 years, yeah, Pete's been going down there and, taking his shirt off for DK Metcalf and things like that. So
weird, he takes it off every year though.
Yeah. So yeah, I think that other teams are going through the same type of thing. It's not optimal, right? I mean, you'd love to have your offense and defense installed and everybody knowing what they're doing, but I think it's much more important because, look, we talk about the combine. I think the biggest thing are the interviews, and those guys can see all that, right? They're recorded, and so they're able to be there virtually. So they can figure that part out, I think, okay. But as far as that being like a big, huge problem, I mean, yeah, it's a little bit of a problem. You would like to have your coaches there, but I don't, there's lots of teams that are going through that every year. And like John said, they had to wait till the AFC Championship game. So, it was other teams have a little bit of an advantage there. But the one thing I think that he talked a lot about was his area scouts and how those guys and how important they are.
Yeah, and they'll lean on them in this situation in a maybe bigger way than they otherwise would.
Exactly.
So that's a level of faith in them. They're going to see all the tape. They're going to hear all the interviews. I don't feel like we're going to look at this draft and go, man, if only the coaches were there. They would have been able to do this, that, or the other. I don't have any fear that there's going to be some stone left unturned.